By winning the America's Cup in 1983, a new group of Australian sporting heroes emerged. My next guest was the skipper of the Great Australia 2. Please welcome John Bertrand. Great to see you. You never change. You must have found the fountain of eternal youth, have you?
I don't know about that, Bert. I feel pretty healthy.
Well, it was particularly healthy for you back there in 1983. Healthy in the respect of the sporting achievement that you were able to achieve for Australia for the first time ever. I suppose one of the problems is, or one of the features of doing something like that is, how do you top it? And obviously in your life you decided to top it by still concentrating on sailing, but also giving a lot of your time to business.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. I struggled, and we all struggled, for about 16 years to win the America's Cup. It wasn't, a one-night stand, you might say, with a sporting event. And that was my fourth America's Cup, and I was also involved with 3 Olympic campaigns, 3 Olympic Games. And it's a little bit like any of the, the Greg Normans or whatever. I would expect that when they retire, they'll retire, properly, and similar to some of the boxing champions around the place. For me, I'd done everything I ever wanted to do in my sporting career, and in fact, I haven't really raced in any sense of professionalism since the last race of the America's Cup in September 1983.
And is this as the result of winning the Cup, John?
Yes, it is. I feel content. That part of my life, I guess, but I feel content, and it's something that I strove for so long.
And you can't top that?
Not in that part of my life, no. So therefore it was important for someone like myself to take a new tack, you might say. And I've launched myself into my business directions, and I'm getting as much adrenaline and as much fun out of my business activities as I did with the America's Cup racing.
What sort of business activities?
Property development.
Tell me more about that.
Well, basically, I have a company based in Melbourne, and we're involved in building office complexes, mainly for purpose-built buildings for some of the blue-chip companies around the country, and also industrial developments and also residential developments. In fact, we're just about to finish a residential development near the Flemington Racecourse in Melbourne.
Right. So what's the biggest advantage for you? Your business expertise or your name?
Oh, certainly the name helps a tremendous amount. But the thing about anything in business, and I notice these beautiful kids from Arnhem Land, whenever they strike out and do their own thing, and hopefully they'll find some sense of achievement and happiness in what they do. The key is that you may be able to get your foot in the door with something, but you've still got to deliver the goods. You've still got to make it happen. And if you let people down, well, then you don't have a business career in the future. And that's what we're all about. The fact is you've got to deliver the goods, and if you say you're going to make something happen, you by golly, you better make it happen.
Certainly. I was just thinking during Delilah's opening number, and as I mentioned before, I was having a look at the audience, not just to the kids in Arnhem Land, but it's always a good time in the opening number to suss out the audience and see who's smiling and who's not, and who looks friendly and who doesn't look friendly. And I was just thinking with those kids particularly, and looking at Delilah, who's an American-born performer who has done very well for herself here in Australia, and those kids up there who are seeing television for the very first time in their lives. I'm about to introduce someone who has gone down in history as achieving something which had never been done before in this land. We are such a diverse country. We're huge in area, but also we're diverse in cultures and also in attitudes. When you won the America's Cup, John, and then you were able to contemplate it afterwards, after all the champagne by the PM being poured over his head and all that sort of jazz, and the euphoria that went through Australia, what did it do for you as an Australian in the way you thought about your country?
It made me obviously very proud. To be quite honest, we never ever figured in our wildest dreams how big a deal it was going to be. When we were beavering away in Newport, Rhode Island, and when we were 3-1 down and we had our backs to the wall and it looked like just the end of the world for us. And then we came back from 3-1 to 3-2 to 3-3, and then, I guess most of the people in this country still remember the last race. I certainly do. We had no idea just the repercussions in the country. It became part of our national culture. Now, it's just a sporting event. It just happens to be a little old yacht race, but it became a big deal. And it's not only in this country, it became a big deal all around the country.
Do you think it was wrongly taken out of perspective?
Well, Australia needs wins. any country needs wins, and people need wins, you know, for their own self-esteem. And I think that for a country like Australia, which has so little tradition, 200 years in terms of European settlement as we know it today, is very, very small tradition. A country like Australia needs tradition, and that's what America's Cup wins are all about. It meant, or encapsulated, Australia taking on the world in terms of a sporting event and technology and never give up attitude. And that's now part of our culture, and it's something that I'm very, very proud of, obviously, and my family and our crew. And it's something that, of course, we'll never forget.
Of course, the sad thing is that so often when you have a great achievement on your doorstep, then all of a sudden you're hit by a tragedy. And only a couple of years after the winning of the America's Cup, Ben Lexon died. That must have been a real kick in the heart to everybody who was so close to Ben.
Oh, yes, and it re-emphasises just how, you know, such a small part of history we're on this earth. You know, so the only rationalisation, and Benny lived every day to its fullest, the only rationalisation I can have with something like that is that you give every day your best shot.
Did you remain close, you and Ben?
Yes, yeah, Benny, you know, I worked for Benny in 1972 and 73 on the design of a boat called Southern Cross, which was Alan Bond's first America's Cup boat. And Benny lent me his car because we lived on the smell of an oil rag, myself and Raza, my wife, you know. Benny helped me in the very early days, and very emotional, very brilliant man, and marvellous individual.
Well, speaking of emotions, let's relive some of those emotions back in 1983. We can enjoy it, I guess, as spectators, but the man who was right slap bang there in the centre, this must be very special to John Bertrand. So what do you feel, John, when you see that?
Bloody proud.
Yeah. The interesting thing for me is that so few of us knew anything about sailing until we won the America's Cup, and then all of us being typical Australians, we learned so quickly. Overnight we knew everything there was to know about sailing.
My only conclusion is if we'd lost, we'd never want to come back to this lovely country.
Exactly. Seeing Alan Bond there, have you been in contact with him?
I haven't seen Alan for about 6 months, but you know, he's going through some tough times at the moment, and that's part of his life. He's up and down. But by golly, what a fighter he is.
Does he roll with the punches pretty well?
Oh yeah, he's got tremendous resilience. You know, the man is, he lives on an edge. He's, you know, he's just the America's Cup's just one chapter of his life, and that's what he always thought it was going to be.
Yeah, there are a few chapters following that, I'm sure, that he'd like to have taken out of the book.
Well, yeah, but he'll survive.
Yeah,
he's a tough operator.
Good on you, John. Lovely seeing you here.
My pleasure.
John Bertrand, ladies and gentlemen.
It's my party and I'll cry if I want to, and a whole string of hits belong to a lovely lady called Leslie Gore. She's with us after this break.